I am a lawyer-linguist at the European Parliament.
Lawyer-linguists are often confused with translators. We're not translators. We're responsible, as the name of our directorate implies, for the quality of legislation. So we try and ensure that any legislation that is adopted by the EU is legally coherent, factually correct, but also linguistically coherent. All language versions are equally authentic, so we have to ensure that they all say exactly the same thing.
As lawyer-linguists, our job is to ensure the highest possible quality of legislative texts in the European Union. That means that we follow all the legislative procedures from the very beginning to the very end. That means from the time that the Commission proposal arrives at the European Parliament until the publication in the official journal. We take part in all the meetings within the committees, at plenary level, the interinstitutional negotiations, and we give drafting advice to the political actors.
I studied law, and being half English and half Italian, I studied English law and Italian law.
I studied law in Germany, Sweden and England, and then I completed my practical legal training in Germany. I'm qualified as a German lawyer.
You're constantly involved with the most up-to-date legislation. Even before it comes out on the news, you've been involved in, to a certain extent, the negotiations for it. And yes, an example was just recently working on the accession treaty for Croatia, and my colleague that was responsible for it then went to the signing ceremony, met all the heads of state. So there's something quite prestigious about it. I'm working currently on the intergovernmental treaty, and so that's yet another interesting aspect.
In my job, I work with law, I work with politics, and I work with language, and these are three fields I've always been passionate about. So that's something I really enjoy as well.
The languages I use essentially are English, because I'm in the English team. That's the language they use essentially in negotiations. Or otherwise, French. The legal service is still very much imbued with the French culture, so we do use French very often as well.
At my current job, I mainly use English because that's the language in which laws are negotiated these days. I use German because I verify the German texts. I sometimes use French because that's sometimes used as well, and I also understand Swedish and Spanish, and I have basics in Dutch, but that I only use for comparison sometimes.
Our department assists us very much. It organises a lot of training for newcomers, but also for more experienced colleagues, and I've been involved in preparing some of those trainings, and so it's a great experience, not only to receive training, but to also give training, so there's a lot of opportunities here.
I've always wanted to work in a multicultural and multilingual environment where I meet people from different cultures, with different backgrounds, and I have that, so I enjoy that tremendously.
I love it. I wouldn't be able to adapt to anything less than that. Oh, absolutely great. Perhaps I'm assisted by my background, but absolutely. Being in touch with different cultures, different nationalities, learning about different traditions is a very enriching experience.